3, 2, 1. And we are live into our third episode. What's up? Yo! Whew. So yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about this particular topic, given that Pacific people, I've grown up in a Pacific environment where it's safe to say that like 99% of Pacific Islanders would actually identify themselves as being part of a religion of some sort. It's predominantly Christian, due to the history around the missionaries coming through around the 1800s and stuff. But just before I get into the crux of things, I would probably like to declare that for this whole podcast, I'm speaking from a place of experience and knowledge of where I'm at this given moment as well. I'm not just like the other two episodes, I'm not equipped with all the information at the tip of my fingers, but I am willing to learn more as I delve a little bit more into this issue during this talk. So that's the first thing. That's the first thing, right? Second thing is also I'm not here to be right. I don't want to be right. One of my theses in my life is to always look at disapproving things that you deem as true, because just through my own experiences I've found that navigating through life, my inherent biases sometimes cloud my judgment in some sort of way. And so I made it my goal a couple of years ago to try and really think about things a lot more critically, regardless of your upbringing. So hence why we are delving deep as into religion. All right, let's do this. Okay, so now that I've declared that, I feel a little bit more looser now. So let's get into it. Okay, so this is the definition of what religion is. So the definition of religion is the belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods. So that basically means you either believe in one being or a multitude of different gods or beings. So that's pretty much what it means, and it's a pretty straightforward definition. We all know what religion is. I don't have to delve too much into it because in some sort of way it has become part of the backbone of our society and our upbringing as well. And so hence why don't have to delve too deep into like what is it. But what I really want to get into is, I guess, the philosophy of religion a little bit. I want to get into its implementation within our people, but also like some of the positives as well, and what it has done for our people, and actually not only for our people, for the whole world pretty much. And I guess another reason why I wanted to delve into this is because I feel like this is a very taboo subject that not many Islanders or brown people would be willing to like dive in. Let's start with my upbringing with religion. So I've grown up as a baptized Catholic. My whole family is Catholic. We the majority is Catholic, but we all identify with Christianity, which is like obviously like one part of what religion is, and that's purely because like I said before, missionaries had come into the Pacific Islands and set up churches around the 1800s, and it had been spread out and implemented into the infrastructure of whatever was happening on the island around about that time, which explains why there's a lot of there's a lot of us that identify as Christian, and it's definitely a safe assumption to say that, you know, all of us Polynesians are Christian or have grown up in a Christian household. So like there's nothing new there. It's always been a part of our life. And I guess growing up, in retrospect to that structure, there's never really been an opportunity to question religion. And so, you know, like migrating to New Zealand, where, you know, seeking refuge, I guess you could say, in some way, you know, getting an education in the universities, and I guess like a white man structure too, you delve into some pretty contradicting scenarios, such as myself, you know. I remember in my my first year in my master's of architecture, which is like maybe like 4 or 5 years into it, we took a philosophy paper, and around about that time I was like die hard Christian. I was like die hard Catholic, right? So a lot of what was taught in that class kind of like went against it as well, and like I was like, what the fuck? Like that was a dilemma for me. Like I don't know how people had gone through this, like understanding all these like values and stuff, like the philosophy around. Oh, I guess not the philosophy. I couldn't understand how there was this like benevolent being, you know, in the sky that we've been taught for like 21 years, and then all of a sudden there's this paper that like not only questions that, it questions like everything. And I guess I went through like an existential crisis, and it made me question a lot of stuff. And so that was definitely a fight or flight moment for me, where I was just like I want to know the truth, man. Like, what's going on here? And so that was like back in 2016 or 15, I can't remember. I think it was 16. And so like for the last 4 years, I've just been trying to figure it out. You know, I think one of the main things that I want to bring up is faith. And I'm a huge believer in faith, man. Like, it's definitely become the basis of, well, one of the components of like how I navigate through life, right? Like, I don't know if you follow me that much on my running journey, but I absolutely hate running, but I do it because the knowledge of knowing that you can't go, that you think before you run, that you can't run more than like 5 kilometers, for example, and then you just smash it out of the park and do like double it. You do 10Ks, and it's like, and that to me is like founded on faith. And so when you transfer faith into religion, it gets a little bit tricky for me, because the idea of faith is like a massive gamble. It's the fact that everything around you, or like, you know, everything that you do on this earth right now, will predetermine what happens to you after you pass. That was definitely something that was never broken down as a kid, I guess. And that was 100% like, I guess a forced faith. You know what I mean? When I was in classes like philosophy, where we had to question things like, am I real, right? And I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes there, buddy. You're questioning if I'm real, and in the position that I'm in, like in this given moment, I believe that I'm going to heaven. And so like I took like 10 steps back, and I was like, what the like, holy shit. I never really thought about life like this in a way that you could ask those bold questions, because I didn't grow up in an environment that made you question everything. It was like, this is what it is, like, now just follow it. And so, like, you know, as an adult, you become a little bit more conscious around different things, and so all these different discrepancies that are popping up. I mean, like, let's talk about Israel Folau's idea on religion. Like, oh man, I don't even know where to start. I know that there are a lot of Christians, or a lot of people that go to church that like don't believe in like his stuff. Like, I understand where he's coming from too, like in a weird way, because it's written in the book. Like, you don't question the book. That's basically the premise of what it means to be a Christian in a way. And I know that like there are definitely nuances within like different religions as well. And so like it's become a little bit more like tricky for me, right? And so I've just decided to take a massive step back and just like fuck. So for me, it became more about, what is the definition of good? What is the definition of living a wholesome life so that you may go to heaven? What is the definition of heaven? Where did this heaven come from? Where does hell come from? Like, this narrative where it's been so entrenched in us from a young age that if you don't obey these certain rules, you may go to hell. And so for me, it went from a place of like, well, actually it didn't go from a place. It went like straight from the bat. If you disobey God, if you question God, then therefore you will go to hell. And I was like, well, that's fucking freaky. You tell that to an 8-year-old kid, and 10 people around that kid believes that same thing. Of course we're going to believe it. And so it's not until, we reach a certain age where we make conscious decisions, where we can control our echo chamber, where we can, I guess, think for ourselves, right? And so I guess that's my personal thoughts around religion. There's like, as well as being like, there's a lot of positives around what religion has done in society. But on the flip side of that, there is a lot of opportunity for maintaining, I guess, the status quo, maintaining order within society as well. Religion is inherently conservative as well. There is an undertone of remaining and keeping tradition, and so that can be a little bit dangerous when it comes to moving forward for social change as well. Hence why there is a big movement in the anti-LGBTQI plus community as well. And so some of the best people I've known is within the rainbow community, and for me that was an easy thing to dismiss in terms of what I believed in. Like, I don't believe that people are inherently bad or they deserve bad shit because of their sexuality, for example. They're literally not hurting anybody. And I've heard I was listening to a podcast by Ben Shapiro. He's a well-known conservative in America, and he was talking about the fact that it's not that so I'm talking from a perspective of Ben Shapiro, conservatives. It's not the fact that we hate the rainbow community. It's the fact that it's written in the Bible, and that to me is already a problem. Coming back from what I said before, I would dismiss a book if it goes against humanity. I think there definitely needs to be a bold discussion, especially within the Pacific community, around what we adopt from religion and how that looks like within the modern infrastructure of our society as well. I want to read a quote by a philosopher called Karl Marx, and he says this: "Religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world, and the soul of soulless conditions. It is the opium of the people." Upon reading that quote, it does sound pretty dark. Like, he's shitting on religion. But so basically what Marx is saying in that quote is around the idea that there are practical functions within religion in society where it focuses on suppressing the suffering of people for a much long-term reward, and that definitely sounds familiar when we talk about opium, and that can transfer directly to this narrative of doing good now for a greater reward. So basically, this is what Marx meant in that particular quote. I'm reading it directly from Wiki. Marx also saw religion as harmful, as it prevents people from seeing the class structure, the oppression around them. Thus, religion can prevent the necessary revolution, which comes back to what I was saying before around it can be very hard to implement social change, which is actually inherently conservative, which is what I said before. And so if we are not trying to promote shifts in society relative to humanity, relative to the changing world, then is it a good thing for us? Or are we using that tool in a good way? Because, religion is really good in a way that it can that it sort of implements the morals and the ethics and the virtues, maybe not ethics, but the virtues in your life, right? Love your neighbor, don't kill anyone. But I guess, I definitely want to get into more discussions around this as I guess educate myself a little bit more on it. Because, my upbringing was all about this is the truth and nothing else. And so I guess for me, in this particular moment, it's about learning the other side of the coin, right? And just trying to find seeking truth, man. That's definitely the goal of my life at the end of my life. I mean, this narrative of being good so you can live a long life in eternity is kind of weird for me, eternal happiness. Why would you want to be happy all the time? These are just questions I'm throwing out there, and I don't know, man. What do you guys think? Are we okay? A question I want to leave with everyone over here is: are we in church because we fear what might happen when we're not in church? Are we there for the right reasons? In terms of the social aspect, I think it's excellent. But are we stripping our liberty away? And I know that there's nuances in that question too. It's not is it a bad thing, full stop. It's let's break it apart. How can we make it good for us? And how can we look at it in a different light, I guess. Anyways, that's the end of this podcast. I know it was really short and it didn't have that much depth, but hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening in, and until next time, I'll see you later. Peace.